I'm here with Simon Callow at the final preview of the show. Now, you've just seen the first act. What did you make of it?
It's thrilling stuff. It's a brilliant piece of playwriting by Joe Clifford, because, of course, like all Dickens's novels, it's long and dense and it's full of extraordinary characters with intermingled destinies, and she's managed to bring them all together in a fantastically theatrical way, and that's the way to go. I mean, it's totally original. Dickens would have loved it.
Now, to what do you attribute the success and long-lasting appeal of Dickens and Great Expectations in particular?
Well, obviously Dickens was a master of language and had an extraordinary sense of characters, created some of the most memorable characters that any writer's ever created, fabulous storytelling gifts, but right behind it all is this, wonderful sense of humour, huge, massive sense of humour, and then compassion, huge compassion for the human situation of the mess we all managed to get ourselves into,
And now, given the theatricality of Dickens's writing,
Yep.
why do you think that stage adaptations of Great Expectations, for instance, are so rare?
That's a great question, and I really don't quite know the answer to it, because you would have thought that of all the novels, it might have been the most susceptible to adaptation. Partly it's because it's so tightly plotted, and that's why this version is so brilliant, because taking this kaleidoscopic relationship to the material, it means that characters can come and go without you having to have the whole backstory told. But Great Expectations is really almost, I would have said, the most concise of all of Dickens's novels, and that makes it hard for a dramatist.
And what do you think Great Expectation tells us about the times that Dickens was writing, and how relevant do you think it is to today's society?
But at heart, I think Great Expectations is about love, and that's always relevant to any society. And the terrible story of Miss Havisham and Estella, and what she does to the girl, turning her heart cold to all men, is a very shocking and upsetting story, and I think that's a story for any time, because it tells us that the human heart is a very vulnerable thing, and you can train people into cruelty and indifference, and that's awful, because here's Pip full of hope and full of love, and there's this monstrous thing that has happened, and in the end, it's not a book with a happy ending,
Now, you once said in an interview that Dickens made it very easy for you to play 49 different characters.
Yes.
Because people can relate to them, and because they are so, such great characters. How did you do this? And tell us more about that quote.
Well, one of the things that Dickens does is that he rather shamelessly borrows from the theatre, in that he uses catchphrases. So in Great Expectations, of course, one of the great, most beloved of all the catchphrases, "What larks, Pip," and "the best of friends, ever the best of friends," and people in Dickens's characters tend to use these catchphrases. They identify themselves every time. Also, he writes the actual text, the words themselves, are so brilliantly imagined. He tells you, once you read them out loud, how strong, how weak, how fast, how slow the characters are. And everybody has, in Dickens, got some very special quality that you can always latch onto, and Great Expectations is full of them.
Now, we know that Dickens had kind of an affiliation and a love of the theatre. What do you think he'd make of this tonight?
Oh, I think he'd adore it. He really would. Quite often he despaired at the adaptations that were made of his novels. Famously, at an adaptation of David Copperfield that he attended, he lay down on the floor of the box, moaning throughout the whole performance. He was so upset by it. But what he would have really loved about this is just the theatrical aplomb of it. What he just loved the theatre of illusion, the theatre of fantasy, the theatre of broad character, and all of these things are here tonight, but also he loved to cry in the theatre, and of course it's a terribly upsetting story.
Of course it is. Now, you've only seen the first act, but what do you think audiences will take from this show?
Well, I think they take from the show what they take from Dickens's novels, characters that haunt you. You go home and you'll be thinking about it. You'll Miss Havisham, Stella, Pip, Joe, Mrs. Joe, they all stick in your brain. That's the wonderful thing about it. That's why Dickens has survived when so many of his contemporaries are not read anymore. It's because these characters live with you for the rest of your life.
Now, if Dickens was alive today, what do you think he'd be writing about?
Oh, everything. Just as he wrote about everything when he was alive in his own time. But he'd write about. I'm not sure he'd be writing about gay marriage. I'm not sure that would be something.
You never know.
You never know. Although certainly as he was constituted, I think he would have found that a tough one. But he would certainly have written about corruption in the House of Commons. I mean, MPs being busted. I mean, that was bread and butter to him. He would have written about the condition of. He would have been staggered to discover that poverty levels were still what they are today in a huge civilized country like Britain, supposedly. He would have written. I mean, he would have been so funny about everything too. That's what I really would love to read.
Great. Well, thank you so much, and of course, enjoy the second act.
Excellent.
Thank you.